Okay. Oh. I forgot to turn on the camera for Twitch. It's all good. Anyway, we're good. We're good. We're live. We're live. Everything's live. Everything's fun. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, boys and girls. How are we all doing today? Excellent. Excellent. So, as the title implies, well, you guys in the Discord can't see the title, but that's okay. As the title, I can do this. Oh, that's interesting. Oof. Sorry, I'm getting this. I'm getting very much distracted by OBS. But as the title implies, today we are going to talk a little bit about just my art since the last time we have done this. And it should be fun, yeah. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I have done and sort of critique it. Maybe I should call it personal art critique, eh? Yeah, let's do that. Personal art critique. Stream info, personal art critique. Okay, excellent. So, let's get started. What do you mean you don't want to see it? Of course you want to see it, don't be silly. Okay, see, to me you're just trying to be cool now, because I have first-hand proof. I have first-hand proof of you specifically. Of you specifically commenting on one of my art pieces and going, "Ooh, that's pretty." I can't do your accent, so I'm not going to. Well, yeah. Yeah. So you know, I mean, I'm perfectly happy giving proof if the rest of the Discord needs it. But barring that, I think we can just get right into it. Really? I say all of that and that's what you pick up on? What am I drinking? Well, satisfy your curiosity. I am drinking non-alcoholic beer. I don't know what it is about Budweiser Zero. I very much enjoy it. And unlike the others, which are like the Heineken Zero is very much like they make the beer first and then they try to take the alcohol out of it. But Bud Zero is not that, right? Like it is why is it on scene transfer? I don't think Bud Zero is, at any rate. That's what I'm laboriously trying to get to. Yes. Okay. So art. Let's see. I want to, I guess. I guess I want to start with just like what am I saying? Let's start with the minimalist work and then we'll move on to the brush and stuff. At 13:30 ST. Just give me one quick second. I'm just going to find the link of this because someone requested it. What, are people not allowed to request links to my to Of course they're allowed to request links to my work. That's how this works. See, I would be more inclined to think you're jealous if you hadn't been one of the ones to make me. Oh, what is this? Who are you? Okay, I don't care. If you hadn't been one of the first ones to trick me into promoting this outside of the Discord in the first place. So no, I'm not at all. Oh, excuse me. There is no like sizing issue in OBS, is there? Like, I keep I keep having to do this because I tend to export like. So I tend to export my my minimalist art at higher DPI just so I can then in the future shrink it down, right? So yeah. Oh, we should. Let's put that up there. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I exported at high DPI, at high resolution, so that it doesn't look. I can scale it as I need. Can you guys see this properly? Just double checking. Like if I do this, is this okay? All right. Okay. We'll go with that. What are you doing? Okay, I'll figure it out later. Yeah. So this is. Excuse me. Just voicemail. It's okay. So this is something I wanted to share. This was done last week on the 17th. Oh, you guys can't see my mouse, can you? You can't. Okay, let me try. I'll bring up a mouse mark. We'll do this. We'll use this. No, just relax. Relax, bro. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. I wish OBS would let me like zoom out so that I could like see more of the more than just the you know this particular screen that I'm looking at. But anyway, so yeah, this little red thing will be my cursor for now, for this particular stream. And yeah, so let's talk about. Yes, it's been a few minutes and I haven't talked about my art at all. So let's talk about this. This is something that I made last week that I don't know. I was feeling nostalgic for a bigger city. And yes, I realize how weird that sounds given where I am, but really, I guess what I'm trying to say is I was feeling nostalgic for Hong Kong. Because compared to even where I am now, or basically all of the big cities in the world, Hong Kong is unique in just the sheer amount of height that it has in terms of its buildings, right? Sure, downtown Manhattan really, downtown Manhattan is sort of one of those that comes close, but Hong Kong has it everywhere, right? Like, there's not just one downtown core. There are multiple, or I shouldn't say multiple. They're all tall centers with essentially tall buildings everywhere, simply because of the population density, right? Whereas New York, like if you were living in New York, you could commute into New York. That was not a possibility, or that is not a possibility for Hong Kong, simply because of how it is laid out and its historical significance. And so what that means is, you know, like as the population grew, it needed to build up simply to keep to have enough space for everyone to live. And so that's what this is. This is essentially a skyline of a hyper dense, you can see it, right? Like a hyper dense skyline of a city that drops off abruptly on either side. You could imagine there could be like, I'm not using my pointer. You could imagine there be like a tall mountain in this end. You could imagine there's a sea on this end. And the reason why I wanted to start with this is actually because this work spawned a few pieces, actually, for a few days. So this is the second piece. So just before we move on, I do very much like this piece, but it was a little bit. You can even see, actually, before we continue, you can even see that my traditional seal that I use. Oh, where's my background? Here it is. The traditional seal that I use down here Normally it's red, right? Hong Kong, yes. Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. The LEDs aren't quite the same. But I'm not even talking about just the neon. If you could go down Mong Kok, or if you look across the street, if you look across the bay at Victoria Harbour or Hong Kong Island itself. But just in general, it's skyline, right? Like as the shall we say sun sets and the city itself lights up, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter where you are in Hong Kong. It's absolutely breathtaking, like absolutely breathtaking. To me, it's one of the most, almost the most human of views. And I know that sounds pretentious as hell, but it very much is one of those views that are simply stunning for both the historical and cultural reasons, but also just in terms of artistic vision, right? So some of you will have seen what's coming up next. Now we're no longer really in Hong Kong because obviously this is a torii, which is a classic Shinto gate. And so coming from this very first cityscape that this spawned, this is then the shall we say, let's call it we've moved slightly northeast, and this sort of is to me like that's not what I wanted to do. This is the dichotomy that exists within Japan, right? It's very, very beautiful. Of course, it doesn't exist so much let me rephrase that. It exists more in cyberpunk fantasy than it does in real life. That's not to say it doesn't exist in real life. It's just unfortunately that most of the heavily built up areas in Japan were bombed during World War II. So a lot of these shrines actually disappeared. So like if you actually go to Tokyo, there are shrines, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It's just they aren't they're not quite the same as the shrines that we would find in Kyoto, right? And Kyoto itself was spared in World War II for a lot of reasons. But Kyoto itself is also because of its cultural significance, it also forbids the buildup of tall buildings like either Tokyo or Osaka have. And so it's you're not going to unfortunately see a view like this in Kyoto for that particular reason. That's not to say it's not beautiful. It is. It's just this kind of dichotomy was actually spawned from this picture, like from my original desire to see Hong Kong. And then I looked at the cityscape and decided it could do with a splash of color. And so when I originally, how I actually got onto this picture was when I undesaturated. So when I resaturated my seal, the red looked nice enough against the backdrop of the city that I decided to add the torii gate to it. And it's fascinating to me that modern cyberpunk, if we actually really think about it, it's a very interesting combination of oh yeah, no, you make a good point. I should have just done this in Publisher. It's okay. We'll do it next time. I was going to say modern Hong Kong is a very, very, very interesting combination. No, modern cyberpunk is a very, very interesting combination between Japan and like the Japanese aesthetic, but also the Hong Kong aesthetic, right? Like a lot of the more grungy, the more neon lighting. Of course, that has a lot of bases in Japan, but a lot of like the thematic material actually derives itself very much from like old school Hong Kong, right? Like as my friend, like, I wonder how I should pronounce your name. I'm just gonna stick with IK for now. IKIXIN, right? Yes. Um, yes, you're right. Actually, that Tokyo doesn't have that many tall buildings, but it certainly has more tall buildings than Kyoto. I will say that. But unfortunately, we also don't have enough shrines in Tokyo really to create this kind of aesthetic. So, back to what I was talking about, which was the oh my god, my brain just got fried. Right, right. Uh, we were talking about Cyberpunk and how it really meshes together that that almost grunginess of the late 60s, 70s, 80s Hong Kong with the what do we call that modernist look of the 80s, where no, the what is that style called? I can't remember. Futurist. There we go. Futurist aesthetic that was developed around the 80s, right? And so meshing those two together created this wonderfully, like, it is in many ways dystopian, but it's also in many ways kind of like, I would claim that Cyberpunk, if done right, is quite optimistic, because it shows the ability of humanity really to survive in a very different kind of society. Obviously, like in this day and age, Cyberpunk has become, at least to me, just like sci-fi, has sort of lost its way in that everyone is just embracing and perpetuating cliches and just themselves being gigantic cliches. It's sad. It is. Anyway, so this then spawns some more work. Let's take a look at that. Just as a side curiosity, how pixelated are these images when I shrink them down? I know they're probably fine for Discord, because Discord is... Oh, hello? That's not it. That's not... This is it. I know they're probably fine for Discord, simply because Discord itself is running off a different virtual camera. Speaking of, I shouldn't run Discord of a different virtual camera. I should just use it with the same virtual camera. Don't worry, I'll figure it out later. Anyway, so we can see the progression, right, from the city. They're fine? Excellent, thank you. So from the city, we then, we had the gate. The gate was nice, and so the idea then became, what if instead of it being inside the city, we're now looking at sort of this idea of spirituality. Favorite pieces of Cyberpunk? That's a good question. Most of the Cyberpunk games I'm actually not a fan of. Just because the writing, like, to me, Cyberpunk and dystopia, like dystopian Cyberpunk, or even just Cyberpunk in general, needs to be heavily, and actually sci-fi as well, needs to be heavily based in reality. Can I say reality? Yeah, it needs to be based on fundamentals like technology, needs to be based on fundamentals like economics. And so when I actually try to read or play some of these games, I can never get myself to be immersed properly. And this is not the fault of the writer, obviously. This is more this is just more of an issue with me being very, very pedantic, in that because I don't want to say I know a lot, but I'm familiar, like I have, my background is in both technology and economics. and science, especially like biological, like human biology research. So whenever I see that type of story, I always get pulled out of it, because I go into like reviewer mode, and reviewer, by reviewer mode I mean like, so I in the scientific community, if we want to publish a piece of literature, some writing, an article of some sort, we send it off to a reputable journal, and then they send it out to other experts in the field that they think can give their opinion and see whether, you know, this article is worth publishing. And so obviously I've done my own fair share of reviews. So that's why when I read something that is quasi technical, I'm always like, it's hard for me to separate out the reviewer mode. So I tend to always get pulled out of the story because either the economics is wrong, or the science is too hand wavy, or like the technology is like, I need my science to be based on, have some kernel of current knowledge in it. Otherwise it's just magic, and then it just becomes fantasy. It becomes fantasy with like mechanical tentacles at that point, and then that's not quite as exciting. So yeah, that's why I prefer Cyberpunk I prefer to take it in via picture. So there are quite a few that I very much like, but I don't have any of them saved on my computer. If you remind me at the end, or DM me wherever you can find me, I'll try to find some if that's what you're interested in it. For now though, let's continue with our artwork, the minimalistic artwork. I mean, yeah, you guys can ask me too, you know, like, just because someone else is asking good questions and you lot always, all you want to do is make fun of me. Oh, right, it disappeared into the back. Yes, there we go. So, oops. So this then is what would happen if we would take the spirituality of this image and take it out of the setting of the city, right? And so the idea was fairly simple. It was, you know, this image has this sort of very interesting dichotomy of human nature and technology, right? Like this, the more spiritual aspect being, or natural aspect being the torii that has existed hundreds, almost thousands of years, and the city, and that dichotomy now is, shall we say, that dichotomy is put to the background when we now look at it from a wholly natural perspective, right? So in this case, when I say era, that's really what I mean, in that, you know, this one is titled society. Well, now we're in an era where, I shouldn't say era, I should say we are in a time frame that sort of transcends human society, right? So essentially the idea, the idea that, you know, even after the cities have fallen, we still, if we continue to exist as a species, will continue to require spirituality in the face of, you know, a rising blood moon that might not even make sense to those of us who are alive at that point. I mean, yeah, yes, it is pretentious claptrap, but that's kind of the point. Oh, that. There's nothing wrong with pretentious claptrap. Sometimes pretentious claptrap is what the soul needs. And the fact that you guys all remain here in the middle of the day, really tells me enough. And this one, to me at least, is the most pretentious of them all. Because I really didn't actually have a lot of time to work on the 20th on this. That's why I just inverted the color of this and called it prosperity. But there's a good reason I say that, right? Because human society, if we think about it, has always been biased towards the light compared to the dark. And for good reason. As humans, we use eyes, and because we use eyes, it is important for us to. Okay. 1 second. Let me. Yes, I can do that. So just give me 1 moment before I continue this. Let me just put out what we're going to talk about next, and it's going to be. Let's say this one. Oof. That's not it either. So as I'm shrinking this, I'll just continue talking about it. Human society has always been very much about the light, and that's just, that's because we use our eyes, right? Our eyes are our most important sensory organ. And so because we use eyes, we tend to favor light areas as opposed to the dark. That's why a lot of us are afraid of the dark. And so while the dark background with the this is technically a moon, whereas this is the sunrise, the dark background represents sort of a nadir of human development. Right, because remember, as we talked about era, I was talking about the fact that even though our society might break down, even though society can completely break down, human spirituality, as sort of symbolized by the torii, will remain. And the corollary to that is that, as long as we survive as a species, the sun will always come up, and then there will be prosperity, right? And it is, of course, it's slightly more complicated. It's this idea that sun worship, right? Sun worship is. Why are you not clicking on the right thing? There we go. Sun worship has always been a very powerful thing for basically all of us, right? Like almost all civilizations. Yeah, we can say civilizations. Almost all civilizations have some amount of worship, like in the far past, and so that should tell us, right? And in particular, what that tells me is that, again, because we use our eyes, the sun represents not only the passing of the night, but it has I'll definitely use publisher in the future, or even just designer. It doesn't even matter. The sun has those properties that make it important to us as people. Yes, it's pretentious, I understand, but to me it's important, right? Because we as humans, it is sometimes difficult for us to really understand the world, and sometimes it really is kind of comforting to know that the sun will rise in the morning. Like, absolutely, I mean, I don't personally have that feeling, but I know enough people for whom that would actually be comforting if they could simply focus on the fact that, right? And I would actually argue that a lot of us would do really, really well if we could focus more on that than on every little thing that, as a society, that makes us sad, mad, or feels insulting, any of that. Like, if we could just put all of that aside occasionally and just remember that, yes, tomorrow the sun will rise, like it's it sounds really dumb, but it's true, right? Like the sun will rise, and that means that tomorrow we can still continue, we can go on, and that's at least to me a comforting thought. So moving on, remember last time we also did some of this where I talked about my calligraphy work. You guys don't actually, no, our sponsor's not in. Essentially, one of my friends is completely enamored with every single female VTuber that exists, but only but only with the Japanese ones, or the ones that started in Japanese companies. I don't even know why he barely speaks Japanese, but actually, you know what? That's a good point. He would make a perfect companion to the Discord, wouldn't he? Like all of you are just like ridiculous trolls. But essentially, what I wanted to talk about today is a few comparisons between this and what I had when I first started, because I think there has been, very dramatic improvements along the way, and it's interesting to compare because all of my excuse me, I have to do this every single time. Okay, all of my work is dated, not in that it's old and it should retire, but rather in the sense that there is a date on it. And so it becomes a lot easier for us to compare and contrast, sort of before and after. Well, not before and after, but rather like just how the progress has gone, right? And so if we look at this is from February to 26th, and then this is from 2 days ago. Actually, let me find something. I wonder if I have this. I should. Oh, actually, I do. So this is no that. Let's see. You know what? It's fine. We'll just go with this for now. What I wanted to point out is actually the differences in how I handle my lines. So to me personally, the one on the left looks a lot better than the one on the right. For reasons that are perhaps less obvious. For example, this line, this left to right line is, it's amateurish in that it doesn't have a nice beginning and a nice end. Like you can see that as my brush hit, or I mean, you might be able to see that as my brush hit the end, actually the return stroke in this direction is much more visible than the underlying line, and that's kind of a no-no. You can see that the downstroke actually went too far, and therefore the downstroke, the initial portion of the downstroke, is very, very obvious here. So it's supposed to, you put the brush down, and then you go left, and then you lift the brush, and then continue down, right? And so you can see that in some ways here. The down stroke is a firm, what can we say? Bouton. Let's call it a bouton for now. Oops. And as the stroke goes to the left, the return stroke isn't as obvious. But in this case, it actually becomes more obvious as we cross the straight line, because this is the character for wood, which actually requires the straight line, the horizontal stroke, left and right. And we do sometimes just simply omit the right one because nobody's got time for this. And then if we go to the next point that I wanted to point out is this little blob is bad. This blob was actually supposed to look something like this. And so a line, a left stroke plus a bend that goes down, and then a horizontal stroke on the bottom. That obviously doesn't look anything like that, and is terrible because I didn't follow through to the bottom on the right. And essentially what happened here is this has become one big stroke, whereas if you were to do that, it would need to be like, there are ways of writing Chinese characters, kanji characters, whatever, doesn't matter, that flow in circular fashion. It wouldn't be like this. So this would be, I was writing this, how do I say? I was writing this trying to use too much speed with the general writing methodology that we would take for something that uses less speed. So like I think it's fairly easy to tell that these characters are written in are a little bit more straight, are a little bit more angled than these. And the point is that, like if I were to use this many strokes, if I wanted to make every stroke apparent, I should be writing in this particular style as opposed to trying to go really, really quickly through everything. If I wanted to write in this more organic, circular way, I would have to really omit a lot more strokes to make it look nicer, because otherwise it's just busy. It just looks like it's busy work, right? And that's not. We don't like busy work, no. So just yeah, I wanted to point this out because I am actually quite proud of my growth in this particular field. Something that I wrote today, because even though it hasn't been I haven't put it through all of its post-processing yet, but I could share nonetheless. Oops. Excuse me. There we go. Dot. There we go. And ignore the fact that oh yeah, right, this is much bigger. Next time, I promise. Next time, we'll use Publisher next time. But I'm surprised that you lot like this so much. So yeah, we'll try it again next time. Oh, it's also sideways. That's okay. Can I rotate it? Scale. No, I can't rotate it. Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. You guys can see this anyway, right? So, you know what? Forget it. We're not gonna do this. No, we're going to move on actually, and we're going to move on to slightly more weeby pastime. Oh, cool. Yeah, let me just shrink this down, put this here. We've talked about these things. Do you really want to know what this means? This particular name is Higuchi Kaede, and she's it's a female name, and this particular person belongs to, what is the company called? Nijisanji. That's right, Nijisanji. And it's just another talent agency, really. Like if you guys have heard of Hololive, those are Another very popular VTuber like talent agency. Their English speaking ones are now all over the internet because apparently, white boys can't get enough of anime girls that speak English. I don't know. It does. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so what I wanted to show next is oh, this is I'm a little bit embarrassed to even show this, but uh so these are pencil sketches of because sometimes I sit in a pitch meeting and I'm bored, and actually, if you look at this one, this is May 29th, I believe. Yeah, this is May 29th, and this one was done while I was on a call with is he here today? Let me check the Discord. A friend whose name ends in a J. Yes. Why don't you type something so everyone can see you in the Discord? But essentially, I was on a call with him. I think we were talking about a pitch or something. But he was just droning on and on and on about this pitch, and just and just wouldn't drop it. So I took a pencil and started drawing. This is based off of the cover art of that's fine. This is based off the cover art of one of my favorite artists, not artists, musicians. One, I say one of a Japanese, I guess, can you call it EDM? Maybe. Anyway, his name is Yunomi, and he does like kind of interesting little beats and melodies, and I usually listen to that as I'm trying to write because it's nice background music. But anyway, the point is this was based off one of his covers, his album covers, and so yes, I'm actually just about to start talking about how bad it is. Well, there's nothing wrong with being bad, right? Like, at least I admit it, unlike you. Yeah, well, what did I want to talk about? Yes, I wanted to talk about not that. I wanted to talk about essentially like how bad I am at drawing hair in this. And this is, remember, this is May 29th, right? How bad I am at drawing hair. You can see that they look more like tentacles than they do hair because it's well, I mean, I could have added more streaks to it, but I don't think it would have really done me much good in the grand scheme of things, because it just wasn't coming through, I guess is my point, right? Like the obviously we know what hair looks like in person, and we have a general idea of what hair should look like when we draw it out, and that's why you see these lines here, right? I'm trying to draw like flat bangs, which yeah, just completely failed. They just completely failed. I wonder if I should show another one before I go on to the progress one. Let's do this one. Her name, this is Hirogane Noel, and she is we talked about Hololive before. She is one of the artists, VTubers, it doesn't matter, VTubers that is part of Hololive, and just Right off the bat, you can see that her eyes are just completely unfocused. There are no brows, there are no eyebrows, and partially that's because I was drawing this off memory of a picture I saw for. I think that was the day I also wrote her name in calligraphic script. I think. So like that day I was writing her name, and not her name like this. And so I had to actually look up what her name was, and so I drew this by memory, and then by the time I got to her fringe and finished her fringe, I realized I didn't draw her eyes, and by then, if I did, it would have just looked completely weird. So so that's Noelle. Yes. I mean, okay, I'll be honest, I don't think it turned out that badly. It's fine. It's fine for what it is. Shall we put it that way? Yes. And so I guess, what time are we at? Oh my god, I've talked about myself for 45 minutes. Yeah, let's do one more and then we'll be done. We don't have to hit the hour every time. And so what I wanted to show that I am fairly happy with is, no, not doing the right one. It's okay, we're almost done. Is this one. And I wanted to show both the differences in the eyes and the differences in the hair and all of that. And this is just down to like better planning, really. And actually something I haven't talked about is how, if we look at the way I drew their mouths, right? They're very, very small and very, very, for lack of a word, very, very boring, right? And that's just because I was terrible at drawing mouths. But if we look at this picture of Lumine from, what's that game? Genshin Impact, that's right. From Genshin, you can see that her mouth is, she's got this very obvious pout going on that is actually very, I guess, I don't want to say alluring, but it's like, it's I feel like compared to these two drawing pencil sketches, this sketch of Lumine has a little bit more soul to it, right? Like you can see her hair is a little bit more flowing compared to whatever these tentacles are. And oh yeah, I didn't even highlight Noelle's hair. Let's put this to the side. And look at this travesty, right? Like I don't know what happened there. Like this looks like a tentacle. This looks like a slab of cardboard, like it's great. It's great. But compared to those, like I'm not saying this is a perfect picture, but it's very much a better one that I feel like turned out alright. Coincidentally, we did talk about Genshin Impact, didn't we? We've played it before. Oh no, the only thing we talked about vis-a-vis that game was its good design in retaining players. Yeah, I remember now, because even I, while I was playing, I was talking about, oh look, there's another shiny thing that the game wants you to get, and it just goes from shiny thing to shiny thing until everyone has, like until you essentially finish the game, and then it starts gamifying the acquisition of more shiny things, and by then you're so involved and so not dedicated. By then you're so deep into the game that it becomes easy for us to justify spending some money on it. Yes. Before I end then, let's just talk about this again. This is supposed to be a butterfly that's connected to that hair. That's why, the line itself is a little bit darker. I hope that comes across, right? Like I'm here using different, how do you say, different depth of color to signify the differences between, you know, what is hair and what are accessories, etc., etc. So yeah, so this ended up, I feel like it ended up working well. I could have colorized this by shading it in like I did with these two hair ornaments. I could have done a little bit more, but I think it came out quite well, right? And then the fact that her hair isn't, you know, isn't a pretty beautiful little bun and nothing else, I think also adds to it. One quick second. And so yeah, I think that's it for today. Really, that's all I wanted to talk about. I mean, I could. Do you want to see some more of the minimalist work? Yeah, we could do that. Oh, actually, yeah, let me show this one. I like this one. This is actually a rifle. My take on what a minimalistic rifle is. So let me just... Yes, before next time I'll change this. Yeah, so this was done for a friend, but yeah, and you can see the little jagged edges, right? Like this definitely could do with some anti-aliasing. But what did I want to say? Yes, a representation of a minimalist representation of a rifle. You can see that we've essentially highlighted the barrel, we've highlighted the bayonet that goes on the end of it, and then the stock. The stock and the sights. So essentially I'm trying to capture all of the major pieces of the rifle without straying away from simply using lines. And that's more difficult, right? Like well, it is more difficult, mostly because it's what do I say? Because see, capturing sort of big scenery, to me at least personally, is easier, right? Because if we take something like this, just put it to the forefront. If we take something like this, it's very much easier for me at least to yeah, I'm covering my face, that's okay. So I mean, I could theoretically cover my face for the rest of the stream, but we'll be back next time. No, let me just real quick finish this. Capturing big scenery is a lot easier for me than capturing small items, and in this case, a rifle is quite the small item, right? Like, it is. How do I say? It is. It is. How do I even say this? I actually, I know what I'm trying to say, but I can't find the correct words to describe it, because small items themselves don't lend themselves to having a lot of detail or one defining trait. Because so say you step away from the rifle at some point, it just becomes a stick, right? At some point it just becomes a stick, and then it moves on from being and then it just becomes this like random random coloring in the background that disappears. Whereas with large objects, the farther away you go, and the more that the small details of it blend into the background, you start to see like really defining shapes. And that's what we see here, right? Whereas with a rifle, if I wanted to talk about it up close, it's a little bit more difficult, at least for me personally. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah, yeah, that's really it. Well, it is what it is. Okay. One more? But then I really do have to go. I have a series C to negotiate. Actually, I have I have your series C to negotiate. Oh right, I forgot about that. Yeah. We'll talk about it afterwards. Let's put Lumine back into here, and one more, right? Let's see, something you guys haven't seen. I guess we'll go with this one, because this is my so one thing that I do in my study in space series, which is all of these types of or you can't see it, all of these types of minimalistic artworks, is that I try to capture, like, one of the things that I try to do is to capture scenery. In Chinese it is literally, in Japanese as well actually, they in Japanese it's the same words but they mean slightly different things. In Chinese it's shanshui, and that really translates to mountain and water, and in Japanese the same type of thing but translates into it translates to scenery, right? Like very, very much just natural scenery. And that's what I'm trying to do here in a rather more minimalistic way. In that these are how do I explain? Like if we look at, let me actually grab something. Oh, I can't. Yeah, no, that would be copyrighted. There would be copyright issues. So there are, in East Asian art, there is this desire to draw, the mountains, the trees, flowers, etc., etc. And we do that with a brush, and we can do all sorts of very, very interesting things with a brush. Oh, actually, what am I saying? I can just use my own. God damn it. I'm almost. Yeah, we're almost done. When is the meeting anyway? It's in what, 15 minutes? Half an hour? Yeah, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it, bro. I'm not gonna approve it anyway. Oh, wait, what? Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Oh, wow. Okay. This was something I did last December. Let me just quickly. Yes. Next time I'll use designer. This was something I did last December with a brush, and essentially what I want everyone to see in this, or what I saw personally as I was drawing this, was this is the shoreline. There's water in the middle, another shoreline that leads up to the mountains, certain small islands. This is crap. Don't look too hard at this. This I was very proud of it in December. But like in retrospect, it's not very good. Well, it's just like what I was trying to convey. I don't think I've managed that very well, which is a lake with, yeah, exactly. Like if you look at this part, I call that a shoreline, right? But really that also kind of looks more like water than this at least in some respects. Now, this being, you know, mountain, that's the technique is there. The creation of the mountain itself isn't. Anyway, the point that I'm laboriously trying to get to is that this kind of work here is supposed to, in some ways, mimic this kind of work, but in a modernist, minimalist type of way, right? And I think I am getting to the point where this is looking, you know, a little bit better, but it's also just I don't know. It's I feel like I'm starting to run into limitations that using pure triangles and lines are starting to give. I think is what I'm trying to say. Like these triangles, like you can only do so much with triangles, right? And so as the scene becomes more complex, it becomes more and more difficult to use simple geometric shapes to convey more more difficult scenes. And that's really sort of the goal of the minimalist work, is for me to actually practice doing, right? Like, yeah, I think we're done. Excuse me. So in conclusion, yes, we'll conclude it now. We started by talking about some minimalist work, how that actually drove a series of 4 pictures that starts with a city, goes into the dichotomy of man, goes into, you know, whatever spirituality and optimism. We talked about me using a brush and, you know, failing pretty hard between these two. It becomes slightly better. We talked about sketches, and like I'm of the opinion that this picture of Lumine is rather excellent. It's just my personal opinion, right? Like I think it came out really well. It highlights parts of her personality, or their personality, that we see in the game. Of course, I haven't played that game enough to really make a call for that, but I think that it does. And you know, that little pout, those eyes at least to me have a little bit more soul to them than these two. Or you can't see my mouse moving than these two. Right? These two don't really. But anyway, okay, we're done for today. Thank you very much for watching. No more. I have to get to that meeting. In conclusion, then, thank you very much for watching. Don't do whatever. Don't do Chrome. Do Firefox. I mean, do something else besides. No, don't do Chrome or its alternatives. So that means Microsoft Edge. That means Opera. That means Brave. That means I don't know what else. Like everything is based on Chromium. It's just it's stupid. No. We'll rant about my Google some other time. Oh, hi you. Well, please don't use Edge. Come on, that's just bad. Anyway, we're done. Bye. Oh yeah, no. While I have you here, let me just show you this. Actually, were you here when I was talking about Niji-sanji? Because this is Higuchi Kaede. She's one of the earlier members of Niji-sanji. Right here. Okay, good. Done. Bye.